The top cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
You know the name Doug Poppa?
Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
He was a man of integrity. His testimony last summer freed an innocent man from jail who had already been convicted of shooting his ex-wife. But Poppa's going public cost him his job as an undercover cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
Sometimes the truth has a price. That may be the lesson of a Virginia police officer who says, in trying to do the right thing, he ended up paying for it.
The message you're sending is, see, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut. But if I wouldn't do it all over again, I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of police work. Because the day I can tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, and the day the system doesn't want me to tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, is the day I'd leave the badge on the desk and walk away.
Poppa was fired for insubordination. One man who confronted truth and consequences.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, welcome to the Truth and Consequences podcast, episode 131 for Sunday, December 11th, 2022. I'm Doug Poppa, independent investigative journalist, former law enforcement officer, and hotel casino executive. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another exclusive investigative news story from the Truth and Consequences podcast. According to police sources, a Las Vegas Metro police sergeant is under Internal Affairs Bureau investigation, or under internal investigation, after ordering his officers to stand down and wait for the arrival of SWAT, as the officers heard the screams of a woman who was being stabbed to death. It sounds horrible, folks, because it is. How did all this happen? On September 15, 2022, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Public Information Office published the following press release. Titled, Man Arrested After Stabbing and Killing Mother. On September 14, 2022, at approximately 11:09 a.m., LVMPD dispatch received a report of a family disturbance in the 2900 block of Juniper Hills Boulevard. The caller reported his brother, 34-year-old Pablo Bonilla, and I'll spell that Bonilla, and their mother, were involved in a dispute inside their apartment. The caller added that Bonilla was armed with a knife and threatening to kill their mother if she tried to leave. Arriving officers set up containment around the apartment and attempted to communicate with Bonilla and his mother to get them to exit the residence. SWAT and crisis negotiators were requested, but prior to their arrival, Bonilla exited the residence and surrendered to police without further incident. Officers then entered the apartment and discovered the suspect's mother suffering from multiple stab wounds. Medical personnel responded and declared the victim deceased at the scene. Bonilla was arrested and booked into the Clark County Detention Center for one count of open murder. The identification of the victim, as well as the cause and manner of death, will be released by the Clark County Coroner's Office. Folks, that was from the LVMPD press release. And on the screen, I had a copy of the press release. You can go back and look at it. And this is the CCDC, Clark County Detention Center, a record and photograph of Bonilla, the suspect. Okay. Get him off the screen. Subsequently, folks, the Clark County Coroner's Office ruled that the woman, who police said was killed by her son, died from multiple stab wounds. Paula Prado Zuniga, spelled Zuniga, 74, of Las Vegas, was pronounced dead on Wednesday, September 14th, in a living room on the 2900 block of Juniper Hills Boulevard. Later reports indicated that Zuniga was stabbed 68 times all over her body, including her face. She also had defensive wounds to her hands, and police believe that she had attempted to pry the knife away from her son. When Bonilla exited the apartment and surrendered to police, he was covered in blood, holding 2 knives, a teddy bear, and a picture frame. Okay, before I continue, I'm going to play some news clips from several television stations out here in Las Vegas, and then I'll get back to the rest of the story and the breaking news that I have that's exclusive to the Truth and Consequences podcast, and we'll get into that.
Metro police are investigating a homicide right now in East Las Vegas. Sean Delancey is live from the scene with what we know right now. Sean.
Yeah, Tricia, right now a man is in custody facing murder charges after police say that he stabbed his mother to death inside of this apartment complex near Nellis and Vegas Valley Drive. Police said that they got a call just after 11 this morning from a man saying his brother was inside of his house acting erratically and threatening his mother with a knife. Officer Jason Johansson with Metro's Homicide Division says that when police arrived, the caller was outside, but the mom and brother were still in the home. A police standoff began, lasting nearly an hour as police called for them to come out until the brother emerged from the home covered in blood, holding 2 knives. Police were able to take the brother into custody and then found the mom stabbed to death inside. Johansson says that this is the latest in a recent spike in domestic-related homicides.
They're very tragic. I do encourage anyone, if we're talking about a domestic violence-related issue, to please reach out to your community resources, your non-government entities, or whether it be through the Family Justice Center, and reach out. There is advocates out there for you. There are resources out there for you.
Johansson says that the mother was in her 70s and the man they took into custody is in his 30s. He says police will continue to investigate on scene for the next several hours. After processing, the victim's son will be taken to the Regional Justice Center to be processed on open murder charges.
A woman is dead after police say her son stabbed her to death inside an East Valley apartment. This happened around 11 a.m. near Nellis and Vegas Valley. That's where we find 8 News Now investigator David Charnes live with the very latest. David.
Yeah, so Kirsten, here's what we know right now. Police just wrapping up a news conference giving us some information about this. This happened in this apartment complex behind me near where we are on Vegas Valley and Nellis around 11 this morning. A family member called police saying his brother was acting odd and there was some sort of argument with their mother inside. SWAT was called in, and then a bit later the suspect, the victim's son, came out of an apartment here covered in blood and armed with knives. Right now, police are processing an apartment here behind me, a crime scene, and they say they will be here doing that throughout the night. And the coroner will also be here to identify this woman, who we only know is a woman who is about 70 years of age, obviously the mother of 2 adult sons. At this point, we do not know a motive. Again, that suspect, who is believed to be the victim's son, is in custody here, with police, and will be interviewed by police to try to figure out exactly why this happened. But again, an adult son accused of killing his mother in her 70s.
We're learning disturbing details about an earlier standoff between police and a murder suspect in the East Valley. Police say they were called to an apartment near Nellis and Vegas Valley about a man acting erratically with a knife. When they got there just after 11 o'clock, the caller told them their brother was locked inside arguing with their mother. Police say the suspect eventually came out covered in blood and holding 2 knives. They say they found the body of a woman inside, believed to be his mother. The suspect is now facing an open murder charge. Amid the investigation, police once again urge anyone experiencing domestic violence to get help.
I do encourage anyone, if we're talking about a domestic violence-related issue, to please reach out to your community resources, your non-government entities, or whether it be through the Family Justice Center, and reach out. There is advocates out there for you. There are resources out there for you.
Police did not give a motive, but they said they believe the stabbing escalated from an argument.
Okay. Let me continue. According to the police arrest report, Bonilla's brother called police around 11 a.m. and said that Bonilla was holding knives and yelling at their mother. The brother stepped outside to call for help, leaving Bonilla and his mother alone for about an hour, while Bonilla refused to come out. Paula Prado Zuniga was found laying on her stomach by the police and was pronounced dead at the scene. Residents in a neighboring apartment told police they could also hear someone yelling at Paula, who screamed "no" several times. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Lieutenant Jason Johansson said the incident began around 11:09 a.m., September 14th, in the 2900 block of Juniper Hills Boulevard, near Vegas Valley Drive and Nellis Boulevard. Johansson said a 911 call was made in a nearby apartment that a man was acting erratically, armed with a knife. When police arrived, they located the caller, who said his brother was in the apartment with their mother. Police treated it as a hostage situation. Johansson said the incident appeared to begin as a verbal argument. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will report what was not reported by the Las Vegas Metro Police to the press and the public. Again, folks, this is exclusive information you will hear first on the Truth and Consequences podcast. According to police sources, Las Vegas Metro Police Southeast Area Command Sgt. Danny Cordero, get a photo up on the screen here. These are photos I obtained. That's his pay scale from public records. The photos are a little dated. That's him on the left when he was assigned as a public information officer years ago, and that is a photograph of him when he was in patrol. Again, going back to what I said, Southeast Area Command Sergeant Danny Cordero ordered his squad to stand down and not enter the apartment because the SWAT team was en route. They started to evacuate the surrounding area and were in communication with Bonilla, commanding him and his mother to come out of the apartment. Sergeant Cordero told them, I'm missing, I'll go back here. Folks, I was told that officers were stacked up at the apartment door. Listen to what I'm saying here. This has never been reported before and basically was concealed by Metro from the press. And in essence, when you conceal something from the press, you're concealing it from the public. I was told that officers were stacked up at the apartment door, ready to make entry, because the officers heard the screams of the woman inside as she was being attacked. Sergeant Cordero told them no, not to enter. Prior to the SWAT team's arrival, the suspect, Bonilla, exited and surrendered to the police. The same officers, ladies and gentlemen, who wanted to make entry into the apartment to save the woman's life are the officers who discovered her body inside the apartment when they made entry after Bonilla surrendered. I was told by sources that several police officers are now traumatized over the incident because they are now second-guessing themselves as to whether they should have disobeyed their sergeant's order and made entry into the apartment when they heard the woman screaming as she was being stabbed multiple times. Folks, they may have been able to prevent further injury and possibly her death, but that we will never know because they were ordered to stand down by their sergeant and took no action. Ladies and gentlemen, had the officers disregarded their supervisor's order and made entry, that would have been the correct course of action, in my opinion. Because after the September 14th incident, which was also never reported to the news, Southeast Area Command Bureau Commander Captain Christine Buist, spelled B-U-I-S-T, and I got a photograph of her. That is Captain Christine Buist. She's the commanding officer, like I said, of the Southeast Area Command and Sergeant Cordero's supervisor. Okay. Now, Why did I say, in my opinion, it would have been the correct course of action? Because, like I said, after the September 14th incident, listen to this, folks, Captain Buist wrote a statement of complaint against Sergeant Cordero for failing to take action to save the woman's life. Why? I was told that the incident should have changed immediately from a, quote, barricaded/hostage event to a rescue attempt as soon as the police officers heard the woman screaming, and Sergeant Cordero failed to do that and ordered his officers to stand down. And because of that inaction, his commanding officer, Captain Buist, wrote up the statement of complaint against him. What I just described was never divulged to the public until now, here on my podcast. Now, sources have informed me that Sergeant Danny Cordero was pulled from patrol duties and is currently assigned administrative duties inside the Southeast Area Command substation. He's not on the road. Sources said the Critical Incident Review Team, CIRT, is investigating Cordero, and that in the least, he could possibly lose his rank. Folks, keep in mind that Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who is the governor-elect, has once again kept crucial information from the press and the public. Police officers were told to stand down as a woman was being fatally stabbed, while they heard her screams emanating from inside her apartment. It's not only a terrible tragedy, but also a disgrace and another black mark on a police department. I was told that the term quote-unquote high-speed wobble is being used by police officers to describe Sergeant Cordero's inaction. High-speed wobble, according to sources who talked to me, is a term used in the police department to describe when an officer panics during a high-stress situation and cannot make a decision. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what I'm saying. If indeed that is what caused Sergeant Cordero's inaction at the scene, I think it would have been the proper course of action, like I said, for a senior officer to take command, override his order to stand down, and do what they should have done, which was to make entry into the apartment in an attempt to save the woman's life. It is very sad that officers are now traumatized because of this tragic set of events. I would only hope that the police department gets them the support and counseling they need. Ladies and gentlemen, how many times have we heard that police officers, for one reason or another, have failed to act to save another person's life? In this case, according to what I was told, the officers were stacked up at the door, ready to make entry when they heard the screams and were ordered to stand down by their sergeant. Sheriff Joe Lombardo and Sheriff-elect Kevin McMahill, this is going out to you. I am demanding that you immediately release all the body camera video footage from all police personnel who are at the scene, in addition to the communication center dispatch logs, audio recordings, officers' reports, and other documentation relating to the December 14th incident, and that you have a press conference in front of the local media describing why nobody took action to save this woman's life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my closing comments. There's no defense for this, folks. It's incomprehensible. The police failed to act to save a woman's life. That's it in a nutshell. Yes, they wanted to go in, but they were told to stand down by their sergeant, and they didn't go in. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know from my podcast, I'm a former cop. I spent many years working in one of the most dangerous assignments in police work, undercover. When you pin on a badge, you are accepting the inherent danger that goes along with the job, and the fact that you may have to risk your life someday to save another. You don't stand by and do nothing as people are being killed. You don't hide in bathrooms, and you don't refuse to back up another officer when requested. If that's the kind of person you are, then do us all a favor and find another profession. Law enforcement, my friend, is not for you. Ladies and gentlemen, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa. Support my independent investigative journalism, if you can, at paypal.me/Doug Poppa. Contact me at Truth and Consequences WDP, William David Paul at gmail.com. Audio podcast versions are available at iHeartRadio and Spotify. Much more coming, folks, in future episodes that you will not hear being reported by the Las Vegas media. Thanks again for watching and listening. And by request, on my new outro, I've added some more clips that explains a little bit more about what you saw in the intro about what happened to me on the police department 30 years ago. So it's only about 3 minutes long. So go ahead and watch it. Again, thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. And one more thing. I got tons of comments from people saying, Mr. Poppa, why is it that every story you have broken has never been picked up by the Las Vegas media? Why don't they report or follow up on your work? And I keep telling you, and I'm telling you, I appreciate the comments, but I'm sick and tired of hearing it, because you need to address those comments to the editors and the news directors at the print and television and radio stations in Las Vegas, because they all get my podcast, and I don't work for them. I don't know why they don't follow up. I'm hoping that just once, this woman's dead, 74 years old, because police officers were ordered to take no action by their sergeant. I can only hope that in this case, the local media will get interested in it. So thanks again, and much more coming, folks. Like I said, that you will not hear being reported by the Las Vegas media, and that is pretty sad. Thanks again for listening, and see you on the next episode.
This lawman sacrificed his badge for justice.
The gripping story of Deputy Sheriff Doug Poppa. He was a top cop who did the right thing and paid dearly for it. Poppa knew a secret that could free a man wrongfully imprisoned for shooting his ex-wife. But when Poppa stepped forward, he was cut down by his own police department.
All this stuff's going in my head. Should I call up to the defense attorney? Okay? And I knew if I did that, holy hell would break loose.
Deputy Sheriff Doug Poppa used to be one of the top cops in rural Loudoun County, Virginia. Deputy Poppa feels he's been busted himself. He lost his job as a narcotics investigator, he says, when he told an ugly truth about a 4-year-old crime. The truth about how his own department and the local prosecutor allegedly ignored key evidence and may have sent an innocent man to jail.
I testified, and everything changes.
What Deputy Poppa testified about was an attempted murder in 1987.
They deliberately withheld evidence that should have been given to my defense attorneys.
Bill Birch is the prosecutor Deputy Poppa accused of ignoring the evidence.
He says, I told the prosecutor, I told Mr. Birch that this woman said, I'm going to shoot myself if need be, and I'm going to make it look like my husband did it just to ruin his life. Did he say that to you? No, he did not.
But this November, the court believed Doug Poppa.
Oh my goodness, is this the reception committee?
And on Valentine's Day, William Carter was released on a $50,000 bond and given a new trial.
This man usually puts people on trial in this courthouse, but in a rare turn of events, the Loudoun County Commonwealth Attorney was called to the witness stand. William Birch was asked to respond to allegations that he pressured a witness to lie in earlier court proceedings.
No, sir.
A woman who lived at the Carter mansion the night Carol Vandergrift Carter was shot 5 years ago testified that the prosecutor coached her to withhold testimony about the gun involved.
I certainly did tell him about that it was a .38.
I don't recall her saying anything about the gun, or .38 caliber, anything like that.
He's lying to cover his tracks on the last trial.
The high price one cop is paying for telling the truth.
After serving more than 4 years behind bars, Carter was on the edge of his seat when the verdict was read today.
We, the jury, on Each's joint, find the defendant William Douglas Carter not guilty.
After he audibly thanked the jury, Douglas Carter could not contain himself. The tears flowed.
When I came out and testified in November of 1991 at the habeas corpus hearing, and again in January, I was suspended for 10 days without pay, and I ended up being fired after 12 years in this department.